I grew up in Massachusetts, youngest of 7 children, 3 brothers, 3 sisters. Me being the youngest, I always had, I was kind of like the baby of the family, but at the same time, my family, they weren't super strict with me because obviously when you have that many children prior, they don't have as much restriction on what you do. But early on, we grew up on kind of a farm area. It was like Sterling, Massachusetts is central Massachusetts, about 50 miles west of Boston. My brothers and sisters, we lived in the same home, but we started to migrate in different places, where, my brothers lived next door. We had some apartment buildings, and then eventually my dad, my sister, and I migrated to the back, which we had like a lot of land, about 150 acres. And we moved down there, and my brother started a concrete business. And basically I started doing that at 11 years old. And, I was taught a lot of discipline, hard work, but I was a pretty active kid. I was a football player, and I participated in track in high school. And I was always athletic, which was great. And I think that really gave me a lot of introduction to, self-discipline and trying to be better at what I did. And that's kind of where, I kind of grew up. I was pretty popular in high school. I was really good at sports, but I was always more of an individual, meaning, I was kind of introverted in a sense because I really enjoyed doing things on my own. And when I was playing the team sports, it wasn't something where a lot of kids want to go off to college and play football or whatever else. I actually wanted to take up bodybuilding, and I had my first glimpse at bodybuilding at 12 years old. I picked up a magazine and I saw a picture of Chris Dickerson, and I said, I want to look like this. But then at 16, I went into my local GNC and I bought a book called Beyond Built by Bob Paris. And he was a very aesthetic, good-looking, handsome bodybuilder. And I saw all these guys gracing the covers of books, and my dream was to have that type of physique. And I actually started my journey training at the age of 18. I actually joined the gym on my 18th birthday, which was August 3rd, 1991. And I knew right then I wanted to pursue building a great physique. Now, I never imagined it'd take me to this level. But growing up, I was always kind of under the pressure because I had so much success in my family between my parents, my brothers, sisters, that I kind of wanted to make them proud. And that's why I think bodybuilding, that pursuit of bodybuilding made me super motivated to be better. Cutler Brothers Concrete was a great experience for me. Like I said, it's very hard to work with your family. Anyone that gets into a family business knows that, listen, personalities are different, and especially with a 10-year, I was at a minimum of 10-year age gap to my youngest brother besides me. So my oldest brother is about 12 years older than me. So we had a differential of kind of our mindset, but at the same time, at 11 years old, you're not really that, you're not taking the reign of a lot of things just to kind of take the lead. So I was kind of just following instruction, but I was working before school, after school, school vacations, when I was kind of envious of the other kids because they were going on trips and whatever else, and I was working consistently. But the ideal thing for me is I was able to make a lot of money because I was working for a small amount per hour because of my age, but I worked so many hours. I worked 70, 75 hours a week. So for me, I was able to be very successful in high school. I always had nice cars, nice clothes. Imagine working from 11 years old. I mean, I would have nice outfits for school, and for me to make $500 a week consistently at that age, it was pretty incredible. So the learning experience was great. The discipline sometimes was tough because I didn't want to get up some of the mornings and go to work before I went to school or spend those school vacations, but it was an expectation. My dad was super hard on me to do so, and it was a family business, so we didn't punch a clock. That was the unique thing, is when you're in a family business, there's no 8 hours a day. Like, I remember it was 14-hour days. We would work sun up to sundown, and that's how we survived. So it definitely gave me a great discipline factor towards what I used later in life for business and bodybuilding, but at the same time, I felt like I had a lot of pressure on me. You know, it's funny, I started my college pursuit, like I said, at 18. I graduated high school, and I'll be honest, at this point I could admit this, which I really never spoke about a lot, is I kind of went to college to kind of rebel against the family business and to get out of that working schedule that I had. And I thought, okay, I'll go to college, I'll be able to attend classes. And I remember taking on odd jobs for the first time. I worked in the family business from 11 to 18, and then I did security. I worked as a line cook. I fell into golf course maintenance, which I really liked a lot. So I was running machinery on the golf courses, taking care of the fairways and greens. I got into irrigation. I learned the irrigation systems. But for criminal justice, I thought, I'll probably be a cop, or I'll be a prison guard, or that seemed to be the common thing where I grew up. But it's funny, when I started going to college and I ended up with my degree, I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to pursue bodybuilding because I had found the love for the gym, and anyone at 18 can kind of understand what I'm talking about. You're at a crossroad, you're expected to move into adulthood. So for me, when I was in college pursuing this, I found the gym from 8 to 10 at night. The gym would close at 10 o'clock, so I would train at the local Gold's Gym, and during that 2 hours, I didn't think about anything at all. No stresses, no family issues or whatever of me now making this lifestyle change. So for me, like, the gym was my savior. The gym was my sanctuary. And while I made progress, my physique started to change. What's better motivation than that? I was actually enjoying the process so much and getting in such a great headspace that it allowed me to be a better person. And that's kind of where I thought the criminal justice degree was going, but it taught me a lot about being a man, and also, you know, the fitness side, how much I really like the fitness pursuit. What stood out for me is my discipline, my work ethic. I mean, if anyone talks about my story, especially now as I'm older, is the hard work, the determination, the commitment, the consistency, the perseverance. I believe that, like I said, the upbringing taught me a lot about that. But what was unique is listen, I started off like great in bodybuilding, but getting to Olympia level, I was like dead last almost. And then I worked my way up to become the best. Not a lot of guys start at the end of the pack and move to the very beginning. And I felt I was great in my early 20s. I was great as a teenager. I was great with that sense. But my passion for bodybuilding is also unique, where I've given myself to the fans and given to the community because I was such a fan of it. And I never imagined I would ever get to the level that I got to. And I remember saying to myself and watching a lot of the pros make movements, or I used to sit back and watch someone that was like a big name in fitness at all the events I attended as a youngster. And I remember seeing interaction, and some were great, some were not so great. And I said, if I ever become that guy, I want to make sure that I give everyone the attention and give everyone the respect and treat everyone the same. And I feel that if you asked anyone who's come across me in the 30 years that I've been doing this, they always felt like, hey, I walked away and I felt like I was in a good conversation and respected in a sense. And I think that to this day is, you know, I really haven't changed since I was last and when I was first and what I did. My best process to stay dedicated was keep everything as simple as possible. Like, I ate the same foods, same time every day. I never, people would laugh, I never had Kentucky Fried Chicken, never had Taco Bell, never had Chick-fil-A. How's that? I've never had certain things because I'm afraid I'll like them. So for me, I still eat the same breakfast, egg whites, you know, oatmeal I had this morning, every single day, chicken and rice. I keep it very simple because I traveled so much that I was very limited to what I could possibly have. And in all my contracts, whenever I traveled, I said, hey, I would like to have this prepared for me or available. And I think that's what kept me on track the most. And I believe I was one of the more dedicated off-season bodybuilders to pre-contest, where, you know, I ate 6 meals a day, up to 7, sometimes 10 meals a day. But ideally, 6 meals a day works in general for a lot of people. I think if you ask anyone that diets for a competition, whether it's male or female, it's 5 or 6 portionate meals. I think everyone should be eating every 3 hours. That was my whole mindset, was get up early, get your meals in, and every 3 hours consistently have your meals, even when you're not hungry, and always walk away from your meals hungry. That was kind of my mindset. Is I never stuffed myself to the point. Of course, my food got in bigger quantities as I put on body mass, but you always want to walk away hungry. Keep the fat to a minimum, meaning, you know, not heavy protein, fatty sources. When I dieted for competitions, I stuck to mostly white fish, but my carbohydrates were very simple: oatmeal for breakfast or grits, and then I would have white rice or potato, sweet potato, whatever, for my carbohydrates, and that was pretty much my diet. And then for protein, I mean, fish, egg whites, protein powders, chicken, turkey, some red meat. I would say 10% to 12% body fat. I did hold more water, because when you have so much muscle mass off season, you have to maintain, you know, you have that cushion, because I did train pretty heavy. I did train pretty consistently. Of course, I was loose with the cardiovascular program, where I barely did any cardiovascular in the off season, to be honest. I just trained, and honestly, I would train still twice a day, but I definitely took in a lot more carbohydrates. I never was a huge protein eater, and people would be surprised at that, where most bodybuilders thrive on high protein, you know, and I did for contests, because I did, when I took out the calories from the carbohydrates, I replaced them with protein calories. And I mentioned I was on a low fat diet, so I tend to stay less with fat calories. So for me, like, I had a big swing. I mean, like I said, when I was, you know, I got up to 310, but my normal off season would be about 290. So I figure, you know, I had to lose some water, had to lose some fat, but I still only went from 3% to maybe 10, 12%. I was always guest posing. I had to be in good enough shape to do that. Fortunately for me, I was a decent off-season bodybuilder, where it allowed me to have some sort of ab condition and leg condition. I did tend to hold body fat more at my backside. So obviously, you know, you can't maintain great condition when you're like a top level Mr. Olympia competitor on the open side. You can't stay in that top shape all year round. It's just very hard to peak. And I've tried to do that. I've tried to then, you know, stay closer to contest shape, but it's been very, very difficult, especially when there's a year between Olympia contests. Now, when I was competing in the Arnold Classic and the Olympia in the same year, I tend to be in better condition then, because I would basically diet for twice a year. So granted, I was, you know, 52 weeks a year, I was probably dieting 36 weeks out of the 52. So it didn't allow me to get too further out of condition. But once I started doing the Olympia only each year, that's when my body weight climbed upwards to 300 plus pounds. Peak competition weight, my best was 255. I won the Olympia at 273. So there's a big difference there, but I think ideally 255 was my ultimate. 6,000 calories to 3,000 calories was my intake usually. Fluctuation. Today I probably have about 3,000 calories a day to maintain a body weight of 235, whereas I was in the off season up to 310 pounds. So for me, I mean, I would trim down, like I said, to 273 or 255, somewhere in that range, 260. That was my ideal competition weight. I was about 3% body fat at that peak condition. But like I said, it's varied for so many contests that I never really found like what the ideal was. Like around 255, people would say my best was 2001, 255, 254 in 2009 when I came back to win the famous quad stomp. That was some of the best looks that I had, but hey, I liked winning the Olympia for the first time in 06 at 273 too. You know, the run up to the competition, I always felt confident, because I thought every show I was gonna win. And people thought I was crazy for that, but I prepared, and I honestly prepared mentally for the win and the loss. So if you look at my reactive response to winning or losing, it was both the same. Like there was no real emotion because I prepared for both sides, and I said, okay, if I win this, how am I going to handle this? What am I gonna say to the person next to me? How am I gonna react to them? And then if I lose, I always said I want to be a gentleman. I want to be praised, the fans, number one. And I went through both experiences, and for me, it's like, I was prepared either way, but at the same time, like, I walked into every show like, I'm winning this thing. I just feel I'm better. I'm making improvements, and I knew I was mentally stronger than a lot of the guys, and physically, I felt like I had the width and I had the overall size to really dominate.